Pause for just a few minutes, because this isn't just something you need to hear, it's something your spirit has been begging to receive. There are moments in your life that you call coincidences, but heaven calls them instructions. Moments where a thought repeats, a name echoes, a number appears again and again, a feeling won't leave you, and still, you brush it off. You say, "It's nothing." You say, "I'll deal with it later." You say, "I don't think it means anything." But it does. It always did. God has been trying to reach you, not through fear, not through force, but through a language that only your spirit truly understands. And now He's saying this message isn't like the others. This one isn't general. This one isn't random. This one is personal. It's for you. And you feel that. Even before you finish reading these lines, something in your chest is already responding. That's not emotion. That's divine alignment. You've been asking for answers, clarity, peace, direction. And God has been sending them, in signs, in dreams, in delays, in closed doors, in gentle pulls away from certain people, in random waves of energy when you walk into certain rooms. But because the signs didn't arrive with loud words, you assumed they weren't real. Because the messages weren't written in ink, you dismissed them. But now, God is saying clearly, I am not the one who is silent. I am the one who is patient. And I've been showing you what to do, where to go, who to walk away from, and who to protect your peace from, but you keep hesitating. He's not angry. He's not punishing. He's reminding you of something holy. When you pray for signs, you must also have the courage to follow them. You've asked for change, but clung to comfort. You've asked for healing, but kept returning to what broke you. You've asked for peace, but stayed connected to chaos. And yet God has never stopped sending. Because He knows your heart is good. He knows your soul is waking up. And He knows this message, right now, is part of that awakening. That's why you found it. That's why it found you. You're not here by accident. You didn't stumble across these words. This is one of those divine moments where heaven interrupts your day and says, stop. Read. Listen. Because if you don't, you'll miss the very shift you've been praying for. You keep asking God to come closer, but He's saying, I never left. You just keep turning your head every time I arrive. You are being guided right now, not with pressure, but with gentle precision. That relationship you keep questioning, that path you keep doubting, that project you've been delaying, all of it has been lit up with signs. You already know the answer. You just don't trust that it could really be this simple. But it is. And that's the power of God. He doesn't always shout. Sometimes He just sends the same sign 3 or 4 times until you finally pause and say, okay. I'm listening. So pause now. Close your eyes. Breathe deep. Ask yourself, what has been trying to get my attention? And listen, not to your fear, but to your peace. That's where God lives. Not in the noise, but in the knowing. Not in the pressure, but in the pull. And when He says something is for you, no one can take it. But you can delay it if you keep ignoring the nudge. This message is your confirmation. You are not wrong. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are just being called again, and this time, God is asking that you don't ignore him. There's a rhythm in your life that only God understands. He's been speaking to you through the things you've labeled as delays, but they were never delays, they were divine redirections. That opportunity that slipped through your fingers, that person who ghosted you without reason, that door that wouldn't open no matter how much effort you poured in, it wasn't rejection, it was protection. You thought you were being forgotten, but you were actually being filtered. You thought he wasn't listening, but the whole time he was clearing the path ahead of you, removing everything that didn't carry the purity your spirit deserved. And now you've reached a sacred moment, where God isn't just nudging you, he's calling you forward. The signs you've been ignoring haven't stopped. They've only gotten louder. That same number you keep seeing. That same sentence you overheard twice from two different strangers. That same gut feeling when you're around a certain person. Those aren't accidents. That's not anxiety. That's alignment. And the reason God is repeating himself isn't because he's impatient, it's because you're finally close. Close to a shift that could change everything. Close to a moment that unlocks what you've been praying for in silence. But the shift requires something from you now. Obedience. Stillness. Trust. You've asked for peace, and now God is saying, then walk away from what disturbs your soul. You've asked for clarity, and now he's saying, then stop justifying what confuses your spirit. You've asked for healing, and now he's whispering, then stop revisiting what broke you. This is not a season to play with your purpose. This is the moment you decide you will no longer live ignoring the voice within you. Because that voice? That whisper? That nudge that always returns when the room grows quiet, that's him. That's how he speaks. Not in chaos. Not in guilt. But in repeated peace. And he's not disappointed in you. He's just waiting. Waiting for you to choose your soul over your comfort zone. Waiting for you to believe what he already knows about you. Waiting for you to walk away from average so he can deliver extraordinary. But heaven won't force its way in. It waits for your yes. And this message, this moment, is your yes. This is the divine interruption that you'll look back on weeks from now and say, that's when everything changed. Not because the world shifted, but because you finally did. So ask yourself, what sign have you been pretending you didn't see? What message has been following you for months that you keep dismissing as coincidence? What feeling rises every time you consider staying in something that you know your soul has outgrown? That is your direction. That is your path. That is your answer. And God is saying now, don't run from it again. Because this time, what's waiting for you on the other side of obedience is not more pain. It's freedom. It's joy. It's the peace you've begged for, but never believed you were allowed to keep. He wants you whole. He wants you rested. He wants you healed, not half-healed, not distracted healed, not performing healed. Truly, deeply, spiritually healed. And that kind of healing doesn't happen when you ignore the voice of God. It happens when you stop running from what's already clear. So breathe. Don't rush. Just receive this moment. God is still speaking, and this time, your soul is finally ready to listen. You keep wondering why your soul feels so restless in places that once felt familiar. You keep asking why your energy feels heavier around certain people, why things that used to excite you now feel empty, why you keep waking up in the middle of the night with a feeling in your chest that has no name. That's not confusion. That's spiritual transition. That's God speaking through the discomfort, showing you that what once fit your life is now too small for your spirit. He's not removing things to punish you. He's not disrupting your comfort to create chaos. He's trying to elevate you, and elevation always begins with separation. That's why this season has felt like shedding. Like releasing. Like learning how to stand alone even when you don't feel ready. Because where He's taking you, not everyone can follow. Not every habit can come. Not every version of you can stay. You've been ignoring the signs, not because you don't care, but because you've been afraid to face what they mean. Afraid to admit that something is ending. Afraid to leave behind what feels familiar, even when it no longer feeds you. But growth doesn't always come through comfort. Most of the time, it comes through surrender. The moment you say, I don't understand everything, but I trust the one who does. And God has been waiting for that moment from you. He's been sending you message after message. Repeating the same guidance. Offering confirmation after confirmation. And now He's saying, it's time. Don't ask for a new chapter if you keep rereading the old one. You weren't created to stay stuck in cycles of almost, someday, and maybe. You weren't meant to settle in places where you're only partially seen, where your voice has to be small, where your presence has to shrink in order to be tolerated. God has been showing you what alignment feels like, by first exposing what misalignment feels like. That relationship that drains your light. That job that silences your creativity. That environment that makes your soul dim. He's not asking you to fight it. He's asking you to feel it. Because in feeling it, you wake up. And when you wake up, you rise. This message isn't just another moment of motivation. It's divine confirmation. You've seen the signs in your dreams. You've seen them in numbers. In songs. In places that made your heart pause. That wasn't coincidence. That was your Creator calling your spirit back to attention. And even when you turned away, He didn't. Even when you doubted, He remained. Even when you stayed in spaces that were hurting you, He never stopped preparing what would heal you. That's how loved you are. That's how patient He's been. But now, His patience is turning into prompting. His quiet is becoming a call. And He's saying, I've whispered long enough. It's time to move. Not move with fear. Not with pressure. But with clarity. Because clarity is what happens when you finally admit what you already know deep inside. That it's time to let go of what no longer grows you. That it's time to choose alignment over approval. That it's time to trust the signs, even when they lead you into the unknown. You are not alone. You never were. Every step forward will be matched with provision. Every leap will be held by grace. Every act of obedience will be met with overflow. But only if you choose to stop pretending the signs weren't for you. Because they are. Every one of them. Every whisper. Every dream. Every door that closed without warning. It was all for you. It was all leading here. To this moment. To this choice. To this turning point. God is not asking you to be perfect. He's asking you to be present. To be honest. To say yes, even when you don't know what's next. And when you do, the shift you've been praying for won't just happen around you, it will begin within you. You've been standing at the edge of a decision, not because you don't know what to do, but because doing it would mean admitting that something sacred is calling you away from what's familiar. It's hard to leave what you've once prayed for. It's difficult to let go of people who once felt like home. It's heavy to walk away from something that made you feel safe, even if it no longer serves your purpose. But God hasn't been confusing you, He's been preparing you. Every delay was divine. Every silence was sacred. Every unanswered question was an answer waiting to be revealed when your spirit was finally ready to receive, not just react. And now, He's saying, I've shown you enough. Now walk. He's not asking you to move with all the answers. He's asking you to move with faith. Because what's coming will only make sense in hindsight. What's waiting for you on the other side of your yes will not be fully visible from where you stand right now. But that's how miracles unfold, they arrive in places where you were once too afraid to enter. That's why the signs have multiplied. That's why your soul has been unsettled. That's why the same message keeps following you in different forms. God is saying, you're not imagining this. I really am talking to you. He talks to you through tension. Through tears. Through the quiet knowing you feel after every prayer. He's been redirecting your focus, not to frustrate you, but to free you. That person who left your life didn't abandon you. They were removed because your spirit was no longer safe in their presence. That opportunity that didn't work out wasn't a loss, it was a wall placed by heaven to keep your energy from being poured into something temporary. And now He's saying, do you trust me enough to stop calling these interruptions mistakes? You've come too far to ignore the signs now. You've evolved too much to play small just to stay in places that no longer challenge you to grow. And God is trying to take you deeper, not just in blessing, but in awareness. He wants you to feel the pull, to honor the inner knowing, to believe in the sacred instructions that don't come through logic but through alignment. Because alignment is the language of heaven. And when you step into it, everything you need begins to rise toward you: people, provision, peace, purpose. All of it begins to make its way to your life with a speed that only divine obedience can trigger. You were never created to beg for signs. You are the sign. You were never designed to fear the unknown. You were born to walk through it carrying the light that God placed inside you since the very beginning. But you keep dimming it every time you stay in what's familiar just because it's comfortable. And now God is saying, comfort is not your assignment. Calling is. You don't need to explain it to anyone. You don't need to convince people who don't see what you're carrying. You don't even need everyone to agree with the next step you take. Because this one isn't about them. It's about you. And Him. Alone. Together. This part of your life doesn't need noise. It needs presence. It doesn't need applause. It needs alignment. It doesn't need validation. It needs vision. And that vision is already in you. You've seen glimpses of it. You've felt its pull in the quiet moments. You've dreamed it in your sleep. You've whispered it in your prayers. And now God is ready to move, but He's waiting for your yes. A full yes. A surrendered yes. Not the kind of yes that comes with conditions and fear and hesitation. The kind of yes that says, even if I don't have all the answers, I know you do. So stop asking for confirmation when you already know the truth. Stop waiting for peace to come from outside sources when God's been trying to give it to you directly. The next chapter of your life is already prepared. The only thing left is for you to stop ignoring the signs and walk into it. There is something holy about the way God speaks to you when the world becomes too loud. It's not always through a storm. Sometimes it's through a subtle feeling. A moment of stillness when everything in your life looks fine on the outside but your spirit starts whispering, "This isn't it." That's not doubt. That's divine discernment. That's the voice of God, not forcing, not scaring, but inviting you, again, to come deeper. And even though you've ignored that voice in the past, He never stopped speaking. He never withdrew His hand. He never revoked the plan. He just waited. Waited for you to trust yourself the way He trusts the greatness inside you. You see, God never sends signs to confuse you. He sends them because He sees what's ahead before you do. He knows who won't be able to hold your future. He knows what you're trying to keep that's actually draining your soul. He knows how long you've been forcing a version of yourself to survive in spaces you've already outgrown. And now He's repeating the message louder because time is shifting. Grace is moving. And the next door isn't just an upgrade, it's a reward for every moment you stayed soft, even while healing from things that tried to harden you. That's why the signs won't stop. Because this is the moment you must choose to stop surviving and start walking fully into what's already been written. But walking into what's written requires release. Releasing the idea that you'll miss out. Releasing the fear of being misunderstood. Releasing the people you keep excusing, even though you know their energy leaves you empty. God has been showing you the same patterns. The same endings. The same emotions. And you've been labeling it as bad luck, but it's not bad luck, it's a message. It's heaven saying, you don't belong here anymore. And the longer you stay, the more disconnected you feel from yourself. Because when your soul is ready to rise, anything that tries to keep it grounded becomes heavy. You weren't made for heavy. You were made for flow. You were created to walk with peace, not carry pressure. That's why you've been feeling the tension in places you used to love. That's why your smile feels different around certain people. That's why your spirit doesn't light up in rooms that used to excite you. You've changed. Not because something broke you, but because God rebuilt you. Quietly. Patiently. And now that you're stronger, now that your sensitivity has become your superpower, He's calling you higher, not just with words, but with signs. Signs that come when your phone randomly lights up with a number you keep seeing. When someone says a phrase you heard in a dream. When doors close that seemed perfect. When connections fade that you were once willing to fight for. That's not rejection. That's God pulling you into protection. Into preservation. Into precision. Because this next season requires your full attention. And you can't walk forward while dragging what you were meant to lay down. The signs are not the miracle, they are the preparation for it. And now the message is clear. You're not confused. You're just scared. Scared to trust what you can't explain. But that's what faith is. It's moving even when you don't have all the evidence. It's saying yes before you see why. It's choosing your future over your fear. And God is saying now, you're ready. Not perfect. Not fearless. But ready. Ready to stop explaining yourself to people who don't understand your calling. Ready to stop ignoring the inner pull that's been guiding you. Ready to stop playing small to make others comfortable. Ready to walk into blessings you didn't have to chase, because you finally aligned with who you were always meant to be. So let go. Let go of what you know in your heart is no longer part of your journey. Let go of who they thought you were, so you can become who God is revealing you to be. Let go of waiting for a sign more dramatic, more obvious, more undeniable, because this is it. This is the moment. This is the message. You found it because it was written for you. And no matter how many times you ignored the voice before, heaven never gave up on you. So don't give up on yourself now. What's next won't just feel different, it will be everything your soul has been silently crying out for. There is a moment when the soul becomes louder than the noise around you. A moment when you stop asking others what they think, and finally listen to what you feel. You've reached that moment now. And it's sacred. Not because it came with lightning or a voice from the clouds, but because it came with a quiet, steady pull in your spirit that refuses to leave you alone. That's not anxiety. That's not overthinking. That's not confusion. That's clarity wrapped in hesitation. That's divine instruction waiting to be honored. You've been praying for direction, but every time God sends a sign, you wait for another one. Not because you don't believe, but because deep down, you're afraid that following the sign means losing something you still think you need. But God would never ask you to walk away from something unless He was ready to walk you into something greater. And what's ahead of you isn't just greater in size, it's greater in peace. It's greater in alignment. It's greater in joy that doesn't fade, in relationships that don't drain, in opportunities that don't require you to betray your spirit just to feel safe. You've asked God to make you whole, but wholeness cannot grow in divided places. And you've been dividing your spirit between what God said and what your comfort fears. But now the divine is speaking louder, not in words, but in how tired you feel trying to force what doesn't fit anymore. That's the real sign. Not the number you keep seeing. Not the song that keeps playing. But the exhaustion that hits you every time you deny what you know is true. The heaviness you feel when you stay somewhere your soul has already left. The ache that creeps in every time you choose their opinion over your own peace. That's God. Not distant. Not angry. Just waiting. Waiting for you to trust the voice inside you that's been whispering the same thing over and over. It's time. It's time to release what you've been overextending yourself to hold together. It's time to forgive yourself for not seeing it sooner. It's time to stop asking for proof that you're worthy of something more, and start walking like you already are. The version of you that doubted, that delayed, that depended on others to tell you what to do, that version is dissolving. And what's rising is holy. Soft. Focused. Strong. This is not a breakdown. This is a breakthrough disguised as letting go. Letting go of the idea that your next chapter needs to look like everyone else's. Letting go of the expectation that everyone will understand the shifts you're making. Letting go of the guilt that creeps in when you finally put yourself first. Because God isn't trying to lead you into pride, He's trying to lead you into peace. Into rest. Into alignment so clear that you no longer chase things that don't chase you back. And the signs have been everywhere. The friend who suddenly pulled away. The door that closed with no explanation. The random tears that come out of nowhere. The constant urge to start over, to change directions, to finally listen to the version of you that doesn't have to beg for permission to grow. These aren't random, they are answers. And you don't need another one to move. You just need to believe the ones you've already received. This is your confirmation. You didn't find this message by accident. It was divinely timed. Delivered with love. Filled with the voice of the one who's never stopped speaking to your spirit, even when you ignored him. He's not disappointed in you. He's still calling. Still choosing you. Still placing signs in front of you, waiting for the moment you'll stop walking in circles and say, I'm ready. Ready to walk away from anything that makes you doubt your worth. Ready to stop settling for relationships that only love you halfway. Ready to stop praying for change but clinging to what's killing your joy because the life you asked for is already here. It's just waiting for the version of you who has the courage to receive it. There are places your feet are still standing in, but your spirit has already walked away. And that tension you feel, that quiet discomfort when everything seems normal on the outside but your soul feels disconnected, is not confusion. That is a holy signal. A divine alert that your season has shifted. That your presence has outgrown the space it once fit inside. You keep praying for God to open new doors, but He's already opened them. You're just still holding the doorknob of the old one, afraid to let go. Afraid to hurt people. Afraid to be misunderstood. Afraid that if you walk forward without their approval, you might make a mistake. But what if the real mistake is staying where God already called you out of? He's not asking you to be reckless. He's asking you to be real. Real with yourself about what's not working. Real about the relationships that leave you emotionally thirsty. Real about the version of you that keeps showing up out of obligation, not alignment. Because the signs weren't meant to scare you, they were meant to free you. And yet, you've been standing in hesitation, begging for clarity while holding on to things He already told you to release. That's why it hurts. That's why it feels heavy. That's why peace feels distant. Because you're not where your spirit belongs anymore, and you've been trying to convince yourself to stay in a version of your life that your soul has already outgrown. But God doesn't elevate through force. He elevates through invitation. And the invitation has been sitting in front of you, day after day, moment after moment, through signs that repeat, people who reflect your next level, words that land deeper than they should. You keep calling them coincidences, but your soul knows better. Your soul knows that when God speaks, He doesn't use fear, He uses alignment. He gives you peace about the decision long before it's logical. He sends the same message through different mouths. He closes doors that seem promising so you'll stop building dreams on shaky ground. And now, He's speaking again. Not through thunder. Not through pain. But through this exact moment. This message. This knowing that refuses to leave your chest. The whisper that says, it's time. Time to trust what, be loved. You've dimmed yourself for long enough, hoping someone would finally notice your worth. But heaven noticed. God noticed. And that's why the signs kept coming. Because He knew you wouldn't believe the first one. Or the second. Or the fifth. So He kept speaking. He kept sending. He kept wrapping His instruction in moments you couldn't ignore, even when you tried. And now the signs aren't external anymore, they're internal. You feel it in your spirit. In the way you cry when no one's watching. In the way your chest tightens when you try to pretend you're okay. In the way your body no longer rests in the same rooms. That's God too. He speaks through tension when you ignore peace. He speaks through exhaustion when you stay where you're only tolerated. He speaks through disconnection when your soul is ready to shift. And now He's asking one thing, will you listen this time? Not with fear. Not with panic. But with courage. With trust. With the kind of faith that says, even if I don't know where this leads, I trust the one who's leading me. That is the beginning of everything you've been asking for. Not a new sign, but a new level of surrender. A sacred release. A holy turning point. And when you step into it, the blessings you thought were lost will begin to return. Not because you chased them, but because you finally became the version of you who could hold them. There is a kind of peace that doesn't wait for everything around you to be perfect, it begins when you finally obey the voice within. That voice has never lied to you. It's been gentle when everything else was loud. It's been patient when everyone else was demanding. It's been steady even when your mind was filled with doubt. That voice was God. And He's been guiding you all along, not through drama, not through pressure, but through divine alignment. Through the doors that didn't open, through the people who walked away, through the plans that fell apart so something better could take their place. He was never trying to hurt you, He was trying to prepare you. And now that your heart is soft enough to hear, He is saying, you've always been my choice. Stop running. Step in. You've waited for someone to give you permission to begin again. You've looked for clarity in voices that don't understand your calling. You've kept praying for signs as if God hasn't been flooding your days with them. But now, the sign isn't outside of you, it is you. You are the evidence that something greater is guiding your life. The way you survived what tried to break you. The way your spirit still believes in beauty even after the betrayal. The way you've carried hope in the deepest parts of you when no one else could see it. That's not weakness. That's spiritual maturity. That's why the signs never stopped, because God never gave up on the version of you that's rising now. He knows how much you've given. How much you've stayed silent. How much you've bent just to keep peace with people who couldn't even recognize your value. He's not asking you to go back. He's asking you to go forward, into your assignment, into your promised territory, into the healing that doesn't require suffering to stay. You were never created to survive off of pieces. You were created to overflow. To live with joy that doesn't run when you speak your truth. To be surrounded by people who celebrate your essence, not tolerate your light. To breathe in days where you no longer wonder, am I too much? Because God is placing you where too much is finally seen as divinely equipped. So let this be your shift. Let this be the last time you ignore the nudge, the last time you explain away your discernment, the last time you delay the breakthrough because you're afraid of how others will react to your rising. Some people were only assigned to your past, and their absence in your future is not rejection. It's protection. God isn't calling everyone forward with you. He's calling you. Because this path was never about being liked. It was about being aligned. And the moment you let go of who you thought you had to be, you made room for who you really are, chosen, covered, and called. And now the season is shifting. The fog is clearing. The patterns are breaking. You've cried enough tears. You've questioned your worth enough times. You've waited long enough for someone to come save you. Now you're seeing it clearly. God was never asking you to be rescued. He was building you into the rescuer. The cycle breaker. The generational shift. The one who listens. The one who leads. The one who no longer ignores the signs but becomes one. Because now you know, every moment of delay was divine. Every person who didn't see you was a mirror showing you that your worth was never in their eyes. Every plan that crumbled made space for a purpose that couldn't be shaken. And today, right now, heaven is leaning in and saying, this is your time. You heard me. Don't doubt it again. You are ready. You are aligned. And everything ahead of you is not a hope, it is a harvest.